All right. How'd you guys like the first with Gabramate when we're dealing with the healing identifying triggers? What was the first one called? Who's in control, you or your triggers? We're gonna follow up with another one. I told you we're gonna go back. We're gonna follow up exactly with this. Some of this on the video was on the other one. Just be aware of it. But this will deal with something. This one's gonna deal a little bit more and be more connected to how to identify and how to manage these triggers. So this should be very interesting. Hope you guys like it and enjoy it. Like I said last time, I worked in mental health combined in my work probably over 25 to 27 years, right around there, 25, 26 plus years. So a lot of this I identify in my work. So I did this as a pro. I mentioned in the last video, I think I mentioned I coached youth sports in when I was younger, in my younger days. So as coaching that gave me also that platform to work with other people to try to make them the best they could be, but also correct them. That we don't see much going on anymore. Nobody really wanting to tell people how it is and correct them. The adults can't stand up in the room anymore, and we know why. And I don't need to even go into all that with the wokey pokey stuff, right? Yeah, crap. Taking away what really needs to be done or hearing the truth, because truth doesn't care about your feelings. It really doesn't, and we need to know that, even apply it to ourselves. You have to do the work, and sometimes it hurts. You ever have a dog? I know back when I was younger, I had the dog, and they would get what the old folks used to call burrs, which was stickers would go on the paw, and you had to pull it out, but you had to bring it to the top. And as it came to the top, it was very painful for the pup or the dog. You could see they're crying and they're whining and they're yelping, but that burr needs to come out before there's greater problems. But it took the pain to bring it out. Even with you with tweezers, if you get a sticker or something in you, you got to pull it out. You got to pop it. You got to get it in there. You got to break the skin. You got to pull the tweezer out because you can get infections and they can travel within you, right? So, and it took pain for the process of the heal. So this is the inner healing we need to do. So without further ado, let's get to this video and talk about this. I will stop to make comments because I really like some of the stuff that he's putting out and doing. So let's get right to this and share. All right, let's go. And this is about, like I said, about how to identify and manage your triggers. I will stop at times the video.
Whenever you get triggered, somebody pulled that trigger, perhaps. But who's the one carrying the ammunition? How you handle people who trigger you, that's your call. But at least know that you're the one with all the explosive inside you. And you gain so much liberation if you find out what that ammunition is and how you got it through getting to know yourself. And that's where freedom actually lies. If nobody had the power to trigger you, not because you were closed down and shut down and isolated, but because you're totally aware of yourself. The point of compassion inquiry is precisely to drill down to those core stories that people tell themselves. Is to actually get them to see what story they're telling themselves unconsciously, what those beliefs are, where they came from, and show them, guide them to the possibility of letting go of those stories, or letting go of the hold that those stories have on them. It's simply a method of drilling down. When I say drilling, I don't mean like a dentist. Although pain can come up, but the difference between this method and the dentist is that the dentist necessarily causes pain in the course of their work, and so most often they numb people before they do their work. Well, here it's the opposite. It's not that we cause pain, but pain may emerge, and we don't want you to be numb. If the pain emerges, we want you to feel that.
It's powerful because we want you to feel the pain, because it then becomes a tool for you to realize, and this is knowing self, like he's going to mention about knowing self, because when you start knowing self, you feel the pain, and then you always wonder, why when certain this happens, A and B happens, or A and C happens, that I'm always go to this place that triggers me however I'm triggered. And by getting to know yourself would give you the process to realize I can make adjustments on myself. I can use my toolbox, as we talk about here. Just very powerful. I like how he correlated. They'll numb you in dentistry because they're going to give you pain because they're drilling in you, but we're not going to numb you in this because we want you to feel the trigger, because we want you to feel the pain so we can start identifying and identifying pain by and then learn to manage the trigger, because it's really not about the trigger. He's going to go into what the connection of the ammunition, which is you. But I just find it very powerful that this is actually inner work too, that we're dealing with shadow self.
However, the assumption is that we don't have to cause it, it's already there.
This morning ritual will change your life. You're going to want to listen
3,
to this. This is Kachava, your new best
1.
friend.
And very often the stories we tell ourselves are attempts to get away from the pain. I mean, I'm talking about the conscious stories, to get away from the pain, or someone to manage it. And those efforts to manage the pain, not to feel it, then are the basic cause of illness. Whether physiological illness, well, all illnesses are physiological, but whether the obviously identified illnesses like
and that's powerful. We see all the illnesses in a thing, and these symptoms are because of the inner traumas, and these are manifested as illnesses outside of ourselves, but really the core thing is our lack of awareness and not knowing how to deal with our abuses, traumas, pains, and hurts, and locking up our inner child just for survival when we were a child and a teenager and a young adult, till we can come to the place consciously, because there's a lot of adults that don't even deal consciously. And what's sad is I notice see older people becoming more childlike. It seems like because of lack of experience of growing and realizing this whole life is just a learning experience of going to the next level. It is your journey. And to find out all this information that we've talked about with the Taurus field recently and those type of things, is that we need to have these experiences for the growth to go to the next level. But when people really, and we've all did it, probably lived at times where we had no idea and we don't get full benefit from what we suffer, right? And what we went through.
From immune disease, neurological illness, from multiple sclerosis to chronic skin conditions. These all have unresolved and unrecognized emotional underpinnings. And
that's powerful,
in my
guys.
view, those underpinnings are rooted very strongly in a person's childhood. Not just in the sense of emotional dynamics. And
think of that as a plant. He said in the childhood, when you plant a plant and don't nourish it, and then the plant ends up growing still, but has lack of, maybe if it's a vegetable or a fruit, and then you notice that it's not bearing certain things, or something's missing in the taste, or whatever it could be. You farmers and that would not knowing, but I'm seeing the lack of nutrients sustained as a child, which we get emotionally, mentally, and physically with neglect and abuses, right? Can have the whole aspect of this.
And the stories we tell ourselves, but even very often in our very physiology. I gave a talk in Vancouver on addiction, and a woman came up to me and she told me, she said cancer 3 times. She's the type that just can't say no, that is always succumbing to other people's demands and expectations. I write about that in my book, When the Body Says No. This is the basis of a lot of illness. And Julie Gottman today over breakfast, she said, well, she calls it the TNS, the terminal niceness syndrome. And this woman fit the type, and she says, I can't stop doing it. I can't say no. I can't say no, for example, to my boss's expectations. He says, I don't understand it. I've been chanting 2 hours a day for 20 years. She's been doing spiritual work, without which her life might be a lot more difficult, might be a lot less balanced. Nevertheless, she's still unable to utter the word no, despite 20 years of chanting. Well, that's spiritual bypass. That's why you do the spiritual work.
Wow. So when I hear that, the very aspect of what she's dealing with is not being dealt with and still doesn't change through the spiritual practice. When we know the deep dive in this is supposed to get you into some aspects of transformation, right? That's why we have this, because there's other aspects that we sometimes have to deal with for clearing ourselves, right? Clearing our energetic field. I shared with you guys, even bringing over, saying, here, sage, light it, clear your area, clear your space, clear your negativity energy that's trying to hang around and attach to you by open the windows like this, light it through the house, do it through yourself, light it through the house and open the windows or the door and let it go. And this is the same thing. There's things we have to let go, or we'll keep resentment going. We'll start resentment, we'll start getting in.
And you might attain great states of even oneness, or peace, serenity, joy. And it may be true for you that it has really transformed your life, and it can even be true that it has transformed your life, but not in certain areas.
That's
and
heavy.
Where the spiritual work has not transformed your
dark
life sufficiently,
shadow work is
it
different.
could be for two reasons. Maybe you haven't practiced well or long enough, or maybe there's an emotional side that you haven't dealt with.
And maybe
there's
not
some
identifying.
truth that you haven't yet glimpsed or known what to do with. And that's where the compassion inquiry complements the spiritual work. There will be at times when some heavy emotions may come up. When I say heavy emotions, I literally mean emotions that are hard to bear and, hard to carry. That's okay. In fact, it's probably a sign of lack of depth on our part if that doesn't happen for some of you.
That's heavy. Like you said, some emotional anger, sadness, crying. You remember crying has a lot to do with the water filtering out of you as you're letting stuff go, right? Crying is a good thing for anybody, right? I'm not talking about whining and being a baby. I'm talking about when you're dealing with the real. It doesn't matter if you're male or female, it's okay to cry. That's an emotion we all have connected to us. It's actually a filter to remove stuff. So like he says, if you don't get these, we gotta kind of start looking what's really going out wrong with you, or what could be a deeper up with you if you don't have and feel this stuff. Because this is like when I dealing with I talked about with this in the deprogrammer. You will feel this in deprogramming too, from the matrix and deprogramming your belief systems. You will heavily go through these same feelings at times.
Not that we intend to cause it, it's just that it's going to happen. So let's just talk right now about what happens and how to manage it if that happens for you. So first of all, there's nothing wrong. If you get triggered, that's the buzzword these days, that's perfectly all right.
The gun. The
But on the
bullet,
other hand,
ammunition.
for the person being triggered, you might want to consider what a trigger actually is. So the metaphor comes from what? It comes from weaponry. It comes from, instruments of war. And the trigger actually is a very small part of the mechanism. In the gun or the rifle or the pistol or the revolver, machine gun, there's a whole mechanism to deliver the ammunition. There's the ammunition itself. There's something explosive that will propel.
This is why I stopped shopping on Amazon, and you should too.
3,
Don't spend another
2,
dime on
and
Amazon
1.
until you...
The ammunition to its target. Then there's a trigger which is this big. Whenever you get triggered, somebody pulled that trigger, perhaps. But who's the one carrying the ammunition? Who's the one with the mechanism to deliver the ammunition? Who's the one with the explosive material inside them? And
It's us. This is the key that he's saying why you need to know yourself and take responsibility is you're going to look at the one that triggered you outside you, right? But really, you're the one that has the keg of gunpowder within you that's ready to blow, right? Ready to blow up. And if you don't deal with you, that you're the ammunition taking responsibility, you're always going to look outside yourself, right? And blame the trigger when really it was about you having these issues deep within you, shadow self, inner child, foundation. That child's a foundation of its roots. Dealing with the situation, dealing with the problem, get that healing. This channel is also about this. We want to heal properly. We want to do the work on ourselves, right?
Where do you want to put your attention? You want to put your
Attention is
attention
antenna.
on the trigger purely? Or are you curious about what ammunition, what explosive material you're carrying inside? So triggers are really great to work with if you want to get to know yourself. And if you don't want to get to know yourself, then what we usually do is we just resent whoever did the triggering, and then we think they did this to us. How you handle people who trigger you, that's your call.
Wow.
But at
Responsibility.
least know that you're the one with all the explosive inside you. And you'll gain so much liberation if you find out what that ammunition is and how you got it, and whether you can really diffuse it, like you diffuse a bomb. You can actually diffuse that ammunition inside you through getting to know yourself. And
The key, getting to know yourself, to cut the line, defuse the ammunition within you, which is a whole aspect of taking responsibility for yourself, because you came to the awareness. It isn't about the one that triggered you. It's about the trigger within you that is connected to the gun ammunition, which is connected to the trigger, which is connected to the ammunition, which is explosives. And this is going into your, whatever your situation is, whether it's anger, disbelief, and unbelief, or whatever it is that you ham hock yourselves through this process that we've dealt with by not dealing with it, right? That always comes up and seems like it wants to lower us and lower our vitality spiritually, mentally, and throw us in a whirlwind of confusion and lack and disbelief, and wondering why we keep setting ourselves up for certain things, and then wonder why you're not getting to that. This is powerful. I'm glad I shared this. These 2 videos to me have been powerful. What a way to share this. We will continue to do some of these videos like this, because this is part of our inner work. I take responsibility. I need inner work. I need to get after that inner child and that shadow self. And instead of dividing it, we divided it for our outer, at the time being children. We hid our inner child when we were children because it was just too painful and we weren't mature enough to deal with it. Now it's at a time in your, especially you awaken spiritually, you awaken to wanting to become the fullness there of you are, to reach your expectations of being the best version and the most raised version of yourself, from the lowering of yourself, right, to the going to the next level.
And that's where freedom actually lies. When nobody if nobody had the power to trigger you, not because you were closed down and shut down and isolated, but because you're
totally aware. Nobody had power. I love that. Not because you separated and isolated, because you really didn't give your power away by it was a trigger pull with no ammunition. You diffused the ammunition within you, and you didn't blow up like the powder keg and shoot your bullet, right? You actually, because of your awareness, was able to go into a space to not be triggered, to go there, but actually find peace because of your awareness and knowledge of self. Powerful. Hear what he said. Powerful.
aware of yourself. Well, that's where liberation actually is. And that's what all the spiritual teachers, I believe, want to educate people to do in their particular way. Here we do it differently. Here we do what I would call the archaeology of the mind. The archaeologist has got some very fine tools, and they're very careful. They don't just dig in there with a big shovel and they apply force. It's more like a very gentle dusting off.
Let's play a little bit. I like that, dusting off.
Tiny little objects and looking at them, what it's really about, and seeing how they all fit together. and maybe what were broken fragments
Which I
really
talked
are a
about.
beautiful vase.
The fullness.
Once the archaeologist
Wholeness,
has finished their work, and in this case, you're being invited to be your own
Not shattered,
archaeologist of the mind.
but whole. Right, not shattered, but whole. All right. Not shattered, but whole. I like that. Kind of goes into what I've been kind of bringing out about the variations of the fractal selves of ours being layered, right, with different fractals of like the Humpty Dumpty story, took a great fall. Well, we were light beings that fell into a human body and became stifled because we don't have the flow. We're actually kind of like the genie in the bottle. I can grant you a wish, but I got to go back in the bottle. You got to bottle me up again, right? Think about that, revelate on that. And we're trying to put ourselves together like Humpty Dumpty, which is even a scripture, to bring all things back to your remembrance. Remember, the word I did it before, and member, your whole body is like your finger is a member of your body. Your consciousness is a member of your body. You're bringing that members back together again, like Humpty Dumpty, putting yourself back together again. And this is really what we're talking about, do that inner child work that he mentions, finding out the pain you needed to observe and identify, and then you're not reacting into an explosive powder keg of destruction, which really you get the brunt of it. You may give it to the one that triggered you, but it really, you feel the brunt of it within your soul, your spirit, and what you go through. Even when people have these things of going angry, and then immediately they go through these phases when they're angry, of dropping down, going through these processings of how they feel, guilt, I shouldn't have did that. And then they kind of drop down and then have to rebuild themselves again because they actually allowed them. And this is why I keep saying, just use our toolbox, folks. Learn to use your toolbox so you don't drop your feelings, your emotion, your energetic field. Don't drop your vibration because you're leaking, because leaking is leaking energy, right? If your gas tank's full and it's leaking in the gas line, and then you go back the next day and you're going, I just filled this tank up when I came home last night, and now I only got a half a tank. I only drove 5 miles home. This should be completely full, because you're leaking energy, you're leaking fuel, and we don't want to leak fuel by the different aspects. This gets into alchemy too, which we will talk about. We will have definitely some more stuff with this, the dealing with the shadow stuff and the inner child. We really want to do some inner child work, right, for ourselves. So you guys have a great day. Appreciate it. The name of this one definitely was how to identify and manage your triggers, and that awareness to manage your trigger, which means not to don't fill the ammunition in the chamber. So it's trigger, no ammunition came out because you diffused it. You took the bullets out the chamber by being aware and not giving in to reacting. Not be a nuclear reactor, but be a responder, response, not react. All right, you guys have an unbelievable day. I appreciate you. Like, share, please share. Let's have more people in. Anybody you know that would be open, whether they're open enough to say they're starting to learn, but they're opening and they know something's happening, or somebody who's in a place that would be perfect for them to join us, and they fit like a glove. Have a great day.